The scout ship Starlight 4 trembled violently as it entered Earth's atmosphere. Commander Tay gripped his control panel with six-fingered hands. His blue skin turned pale as he fought to stabilize their descent. "Primary systems failing," shouted Science Officer Hannah. Her silver skin reflected the red emergency lights. "Secondary dampeners offline." Navigator June, the youngest crew member, frantically moved his hands across his station. "Crash trajectory locked. Impact in rural sector, minimal population density." Their small ship, once the pride of the Stellar Alliance fleet, now fell helplessly toward the blue planet below. The Alliance had always dismissed Earth as primitive, a world still fighting its own battles and barely reaching its moon. This was supposed to be a simple observation mission. "Engine 3 completely dead," Hannah reported, her voice steady despite the fear in her large, almond-shaped eyes. "Engine 4 at 12% capacity." Commander Tay tried one last desperate maneuver. Rerouting all power to front shields and remaining engine. "Brace for impact." The ship plunged through clouds, the hull heating to dangerous levels. Through the viewscreen, they watched forests and mountains grow larger by the second. Tay managed to level their descent slightly, but it wasn't enough. The Starlight 4 crashed into a dense forest, tearing through ancient trees. It carved a long path of destruction before coming to rest in a small clearing. The impact threw the crew against their safety restraints and knocked out their emergency beacon and other critical systems. Silence fell inside the damaged craft. After a moment, Tay unfastened his restraints and checked on his crew. "Status?" "Alive," June replied, touching a cut on his forehead. "Navigation systems destroyed." "Science station operational at 30%, Hannah added, already running diagnostics." "Communications damaged but partially functional." They performed quick repairs to secure the ship's remaining systems and ensure no dangerous leaks. Once satisfied the immediate dangers were contained, the three aliens cautiously emerged from their vessel into Earth's night air. Tay took his first breath of Earth's atmosphere through his filter mask. It was rich with oxygen and plant scents unknown to him. The forest around them was quiet except for small animal sounds and rustling leaves. "Gravity slightly stronger than reported," June noted, adjusting his stance. "Air composition matches our data." Hannah pulled out her scanner and frowned at the readings. "Commander, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from nearby human settlements." These patterns shouldn't exist on a world at this development stage. Tay pulled out his own device to confirm. The readings showed clear evidence of advanced power distribution systems, complex digital networks, and even early quantum computing activities. "The intelligence reports were wrong," he said quietly. "These readings suggest technology far beyond our assessment." The Alliance had classified Earth as a Type 0.7 civilization, still dependent on fossil fuels, with limited global cooperation and only basic digital technology. But these readings indicated at least Type 1.2 capabilities. "And their communication systems are extraordinary," Hannah continued, adjusting her scanner. "They're speaking thousands of distinct languages across the planet. Such linguistic diversity is extraordinarily rare among spacefaring species. Most advanced civilizations in the Alliance had standardized to 3 or fewer languages for efficiency. Earth's linguistic variety suggested a cultural complexity the Alliance had not anticipated." June looked up at the night sky, now hidden by Earth's dense forest canopy. Stars were barely visible through the branches. He checked their emergency beacon again and shook his head. Still non-functional. "Without the beacon, the Alliance won't know we're stranded." Tay considered their options. Alliance protocols for unplanned contact with pre-Alliance civilizations were strict. Exposure could result in cultural contamination. But without help, they might be stranded for years. "We have supplies for 20 days, Hannah said, reading his thoughts. "And the ship's cloaking system still works. We can hide from their detection systems. But we can't repair the beacon without materials," June added. "We need help." Tay nodded slowly. "Tomorrow at first light, we'll scout the nearest settlement. If these humans are more advanced than we thought, perhaps we can make contact carefully. Find someone who might help without exposing our presence widely." As the three aliens returned to their damaged ship for the night, strange sounds of Earth's nocturnal creatures surrounded them. On a world they had dismissed as simple and primitive, they now found themselves dependent on the mercy of its inhabitants. "I have a feeling," June said quietly as they sealed the ship's door, "that we've underestimated this planet in more ways than one." Dr. Jean squinted through her telescope at the night sky. The strange object she had watched fall from the heavens last night wasn't on any satellite tracker. The trajectory was all wrong for space debris, and its speed had changed during descent, impossible for a simple meteor. She checked her equipment readings once more before making a decision. Protocol said she should report unusual phenomena to the research station director. But Director Park would just file it away or worse, call in government officials who would restrict access to the site. "Just a quick look," Jean muttered to herself, packing her field kit with monitoring equipment. As the station's senior astronomer, she could justify a brief field expedition. She left a vague note about checking local magnetic anomalies and headed into the forest. The morning dew soaked her hiking boots as she followed her handheld tracker. The signal grew stronger as she pushed deeper into the woods, away from the hiking trails and into untouched wilderness. After an hour of difficult trekking, Jean paused to catch her breath. The tracker beeped insistently. Whatever she was looking for lay just beyond the next ridge. Jean climbed carefully over fallen logs and pushed through dense brush until she reached a small clearing. She froze, her breath catching in her throat. In the clearing sat a metallic craft unlike anything human-made. Its surface gleamed with an iridescent quality that seemed to shift colors in the morning light. A long gouge in the earth showed where it had skidded to a stop, toppling trees in its path. More shocking were the three figures standing beside it. They were roughly human-shaped but clearly not human. One stood taller than the others, with blue skin and 6 fingers on each hand. Another had silvery skin that reflected the sunlight. The third was shorter, with features that looked younger somehow, despite the alien appearance. Jin's scientific mind raced, cataloging details even as her heart pounded with fear and excitement. The aliens were examining a damaged panel on their craft when they suddenly turned in her direction. They had spotted her. Jean stepped slowly into the clearing, hands raised to show she carried no weapons. "I want to help," she said, though she knew they couldn't understand. The tallest alien approached cautiously, keeping a safe distance. To Jin's surprise, he activated a small device that emitted a soft humming noise. After a moment, it spoke in halting Korean. "You, not afraid," the device translated. Jean smiled nervously. Terrified, actually. But also amazed. The alien inclined his head slightly. "I am Commander Tay. This is Science Officer Hannah and Navigator June." "I'm Dr. Jean," she replied, still holding her hands where they could see them. "I'm an astronomer. I saw your ship fall last night." The translation device crackled as it processed her words. The three aliens conferred briefly before Tay spoke again. "Our ship damaged. Need repairs. Others must not know we are here." "I understand," Jean said. "I can help." That first meeting led to an uneasy alliance. Jean returned to her research station to gather supplies and tools that might help with repairs. She told no one what she had found, creating excuses for her frequent trips into the forest. By the third day, a cautious trust had formed. Jean helped them hide their ship better, using local materials to camouflage its distinctive shape from satellite imagery. In return, they allowed her to learn about their technology. "This circuit design is remarkable," Jean said as she helped Hannah repair a communications panel. "The integration of biological and mechanical components is something our scientists have only theorized." Hannah's silver face showed what Jean now recognized as surprise. "Your species was classified as pre-interstellar. Our records indicate your people have barely reached your own moon." Jean laughed. "That was decades ago. We're not as advanced as you, obviously, but we're progressing quickly." The aliens seemed troubled by this information. When Jean brought them a tablet computer connected to her mobile hotspot to show them Earth's technology, their reaction was even stronger. "Impossible," June said, quickly scrolling through websites showing quantum computing advances. early fusion experiments, and artificial intelligence developments. These are technologies that should take centuries to develop from your previous stage. Tay and Hannah huddled with June, speaking in their native language as they examined the information. Jean couldn't understand them, but their body language showed clear concern. "What's wrong?" she finally asked. Hannah turned to her. "This defies all developmental models. No civilization develops this rapidly without external influence." "What do you mean?" "She means," Tay explained, "that according to all known patterns of technological development across thousands of worlds, your progress should be impossible." "Something is different about humans." Jean felt a chill despite the warm day. "Different how?" "We don't know yet," Hannah admitted. "But we intend to find out." As the sun began to set, Jean realized she needed to return to the research station before her absence aroused suspicion. As she prepared to leave, Tay approached her. "Why do you help us?" he asked simply. "Your people would consider us a threat." Jean considered the question carefully. "Some would, yes. But isn't discovery the point of science? To learn what we don't know? You're the greatest discovery in human history." Tay's alien features formed what might have been a smile. "Perhaps humans are the greatest discovery in our history as well." While Tay and June worked on fixing the communications system of the ship, Hannah began a different kind of work. She used a small scanner to study Jean whenever the human visited. The scanner looked like a simple wristband on Hannah's arm, but it collected detailed information about Jin's biology. Hannah also programmed tiny drone insects to fly into the nearby town. These bugs were so small that humans would mistake them for normal insects. They secretly scanned other humans as they went about their daily lives. After 5 days of collecting data, Hannah stayed up late in the ship analyzing her findings. She checked her results 3 times, not believing what she saw. Her hands trembled as she organized her report. The next evening, when Jean had gone home and the forest was quiet, Hannah called for a meeting inside the ship. "Commander," she said, her voice shaking slightly, "I've completed my analysis of humans. Their neural pathways are unlike anything in our database. Their brains process information differently than any known species." Tay leaned forward, his blue face serious in the dim light of the ship. "Different how?" Hannah displayed a holographic image of a human brain, with certain areas highlighted in bright colors. "They possess an enhanced connection between analytical and creative centers. They can imagine things they've never experienced, possibilities that don't exist, then bring them into reality." June looked confused. "All intelligent species can problem solve." "Not like this," Hannah insisted, enlarging the image to show the connections between different brain regions. "Most species, including ours, innovate through methodical testing and observation. We see what exists, we experiment, we build on proven reality." She swiped to show a comparison between human and alliance species brain patterns. Humans, they dream something impossible, then find ways to make it possible. They have neural connections that allow them to visualize complete fantasies and then work backward to create them. "That can't be right," June argued. "No species evolves that way. It's inefficient." "Inefficient but powerful," Tay said quietly, studying the data. "If Hannah is correct, it explains their rapid advancement." Hannah nodded. "The Alliance overlooked Earth because we measured advancement purely through technological markers, not cognitive potential. We look for certain development patterns, but humans don't follow normal patterns." The 3 aliens sat in silence, considering the implications. If humans could imagine new realities and then create them, they might advance in ways no other species could predict. The next day, Jean arrived with books in her backpack. "I thought you might be bored," she told them. "I brought some reading material." The aliens accepted the books with curiosity. Tay received a collection of science fiction stories. June got a book of world history. Hannah was given a book of poetry. That night, the aliens discussed what they had read. "These stories," Tay said, holding up the science fiction book, "they describe technologies that don't exist." "That's the point," June explained, having quickly read about the concept of fiction in the history book. Humans create stories about things that aren't real. Hannah looked up from her poetry book. But why? The next time Jean visited, they asked her about human creativity. Jean was surprised by their questions. "You've never had fiction?" she asked. "Stories that aren't true? Our records contain facts," Tay explained. "Historical events, scientific data. Why would we record things that didn't happen?" Jean smiled and pulled out her tablet. "Let me show you something." She played a piece of classical music. The aliens listened in silence. "This isn't a communication," Hannah said. "It has no information." "It communicates feelings," Jean replied. "The composer imagined these sounds and combined them to create something beautiful." She showed them paintings next, then played a short animated film. The aliens watched with growing amazement. "Your people create entire worlds and scenarios that don't exist," Tay marveled. "You imagine things that have never been, then bring them into being. Isn't that normal?" Jean asked. "No," Hannah replied. "It's extraordinary." That night, after Jean had gone, the three aliens met again to discuss their discovery. "If Hannah's findings are correct," Tay said, "humans represent something unprecedented. Their cognitive ability to imagine and then create new realities explains their rapid technological development. It also makes them dangerous," June pointed out. "A species that can imagine new weapons, new ways to conquer. Or new ways to heal, to build, to connect," Hannah countered. "Their art shows they value beauty and emotion, not just function." Tay nodded slowly. "The Alliance needs to know about this. Humans aren't just another developing species. Their minds work differently. They could become the most innovative force in the galaxy. Or the most destructive," June added quietly. "Either way," Hannah said, "they will change everything." Outside the ship, an owl hooted in the darkness. On a nearby tree, one of Hannah's drone insects recorded the sound, another piece of data about this world where beings could imagine what had never been and then make it real. Jean was looking at sample readings on her computer when she heard the commotion outside. She went to the window and felt her heart stop. 5 black SUVs had pulled up to the research station. Men in dark uniforms were getting out, some carrying cases of equipment. "Dr. Nam," called the station director from the hallway, "there are government officials here asking about unusual activities in the forest." Jean grabbed her backpack and stuffed it with her tablet and portable drives. She slipped out the back door while the director was busy greeting the visitors at the front. She hurried to her car and drove as casually as possible past 2 more government vehicles coming up the road. Once out of sight, Jean pressed hard on the gas pedal. She took the forest access road much too fast, branches scraping against her car windows. When she reached the hidden turnoff, she parked behind thick bushes and ran the rest of the way. Jean burst into the clearing where the aliens had concealed their ship under branches and camouflage netting. "They've found us," she gasped, out of breath. "Military personnel, probably from National Intelligence. Someone must have seen me coming here or noticed the equipment I borrowed." Tay emerged from the ship, his blue face showing concern even through his alien features. "How soon will they reach this location?" he asked. "Maybe an hour, if they follow my usual research patterns," Jean replied. "How are the repairs?" Tay shook his head. "Our repairs are nearly complete. But not enough to leave." Hannah and June joined them outside the ship. The 4 of them stood in silence for a moment, considering their options. "I'll help you escape to my family's cabin in the mountains," Jean finally offered. "They won't look there. It's remote, about 3 hours from here." "Can we move the ship?" June asked. "No," Tay replied. "Engine systems are still offline. We can activate the deeper cloaking systems, but the ship must stay here." "Then we take what we need and go with Jean," Hannah decided. They worked quickly, gathering essential repair equipment and the emergency transmitter components. Within 20 minutes, they had loaded Jin's car and covered it with a tarp. The aliens wore hooded human clothes that Jean had brought days earlier. As they drove away from the hidden ship, they saw helicopters in the distance, heading toward the research station. We need to avoid main roads, Jean said, turning onto a narrow dirt path that wound up into the mountains. This old logging route isn't on most maps. The rough drive took over 4 hours. Twice they had to stop and hide as helicopters flew overhead. Once, they passed a small village where people stared curiously at Jin's mud-covered car. I don't understand, June said as they bumped along the rough road. Why would your government react with such force over a meteor? They don't know about us. Jean gripped the steering wheel tightly. Our governments are very protective of any unusual technology or phenomena. The possibility of something advanced falling from space would trigger immediate security protocols. Finally, they reached a small wooden cabin set back among tall pine trees. It stood alone on a mountainside with a view of the valley below. My grandfather built this place, Jean explained as she unlocked the door. No electricity except for the solar panels on the roof. No internet or phone signal. We should be safe here. The aliens entered cautiously, examining the rustic interior with curiosity. Perfect place to complete our transmitter, Tay said, setting down his equipment case. They worked through the afternoon. Jean helped them connect their alien technology to the cabin's simple solar power system. By evening, Tay made the final adjustments to the transmitter. I can now send our findings to the Alliance, he announced. A focused beam transmission that Earth technology won't detect. That night, as Jean slept, the 3 aliens sat around the cabin's wooden table, debating what to report by the light of an oil lamp. Humans are dangerous, June argued, his voice low. You saw how quickly they mobilized forces. Their aggressive tendencies coupled with their innovation rate makes them unpredictable. We should recommend quarantine of this system. But they're also capable of incredible kindness and creativity, Hannah countered. Jean risked everything to help us, strangers from another world. Their art, their music shows a depth of emotional understanding that even the oldest Alliance species lack. Tay looked at the sleeping human across the room. Then he stared at the transmitter, weighing his duty to the Alliance against what they had learned. In all my years exploring the galaxy, I've never encountered a species with such potential for both creation and destruction, he said quietly. Outside the cabin window, Earth's moon rose over the mountains. In the valley below, they could see the lights of search vehicles moving through the forest, looking for something they didn't understand. Tomorrow, Tay would make his report, a report that might determine humanity's first contact with the wider galaxy. Whether that contact would come as friendship or as something else depended on what he decided to say. Jean woke early on the 3rd morning at the cabin. The search for the meteor had moved to other areas. News reports on her emergency radio mentioned unusual space debris that scientists were still trying to find. She made tea and stepped onto the porch where Tay was watching the sunrise. The alien commander had grown to appreciate Earth's natural beauty during their hiding. The colors here are different from my world, Tay said. Your sun creates such warm light. Jean smiled and handed him a cup of tea. Inside the cabin, Hannah and June were checking their equipment. Suddenly, a small device on Tay's wrist began to beep. All 3 aliens rushed outside, looking up at the sky. What is it? Jean asked, seeing their excitement. They've come for us, Tay told Jean as they stood together on the porch. An Alliance retrieval vessel just entered Earth's orbit. Our sensors detected it. Jean felt her heart sink. She had known this moment would come, but it still felt too soon. Our report has already changed everything, Tay continued. 3 days ago, when I sent our findings to the Alliance, I had to make a choice about what to tell them. What did you say? Jean asked. The truth, Tay replied. That humans possess a unique cognitive gift, the ability to imagine and create what has never existed before. That your technology is advancing rapidly because your minds work differently than any species we've encountered. Hannah joined them on the porch. The Alliance had immediately classified Earth from primitive observation to critical diplomatic priority. Your world is now considered one of the most important discoveries in our recent history. Jean sat down heavily on a wooden bench. What happens now? Representatives from the Alliance will come, Hannah explained. Not immediately, they'll prepare carefully. Your world will discover you're not alone in the universe. Will they be peaceful? Jean asked, thinking of the military forces that had searched for the aliens. Yes, Tay assured her. The Alliance does not conquer or control. We share knowledge and trade. Each world remains independent. June brought out a small silver case from the cabin. We have something for you, he said, opening it to reveal a small crystal that glowed with a soft blue light. A data crystal, Tay explained. It contains limited technological knowledge, medical advancements that could help humanity fight diseases, purify water, and produce cleaner energy. We've limited it to technologies that won't disrupt your development path, Hannah added. Nothing weapons related. Jean took the crystal carefully. I don't know how to access this data. Your computers can't read it yet, Tay said. But within 5 years, your technology will advance enough to decode it. Keep it safe until then. A gesture of trust, Tay said. And gratitude for your help. Jean fought back tears. She had known these aliens for only a week, but they had changed everything she thought she knew about the universe and humanity's place in it. When will the retrieval ship arrive? She asked. Tonight, June replied. They're currently hiding behind your moon, avoiding your detection systems. As the day passed, the aliens gathered their equipment. Jean helped them pack, memorizing everything she could about their technology. She knew no one would believe her story without proof, and she wasn't sure if she would even tell anyone. Some truths might be too big for the world to handle yet. As evening approached, they walked to a small clearing on the mountainside. Jean carried a small bag with the crystal and a few personal items the aliens had given her, simple objects from their world that looked almost like art pieces. Before you go, Jean asked, why was our creativity so surprising to you? What made it shock your people? June smiled, a gesture he'd learned from humans during their time together. For thousands of years, the greatest minds in the Alliance have been trying to solve problems of interstellar travel, energy creation, and planetary sustainability. Your species' unique way of thinking might be the key we've been missing. We think linearly, Tay explained. Your people think in jumps and connections we can't follow. You see possibilities where we see only what is. As darkness fell, lights appeared in the sky, moving too precisely to be stars. The retrieval ship descended silently, its surface reflecting moonlight as it approached the clearing. Will I ever see you again? Jean asked. Yes, Tay said firmly. I've requested to be part of the first diplomatic mission to Earth. It may be years, but we will meet again. The ship landed without a sound, its door opening to reveal a soft blue light from within. 2 more aliens waited there, looking curiously at Jean. Hannah embraced Jean in a human-style hug she had learned during their time together. Your world is about to change. Remember that you helped make that change positive. One by one, the aliens boarded their ship. Tay was the last to go. He turned to Jean once more. Thank you for showing us what humanity truly is, he said. Not just what you can do, but who you are. The door closed, and the ship rose silently into the night sky. Jean watched until it disappeared among the stars. In her pocket, the crystal glowed softly, a promise of what was to come. Humanity's first chapter of contact with the galaxy had been written, not with fear and weapons, but with curiosity and friendship. And somewhere in the stars, the Alliance prepared to welcome a species that could imagine what had never been and then make it real. The end.